I'm a 33-year-old office worker, and my husband, Tony, is 5 years my senior. We've been married for 7 years, but currently, due to certain circumstances, I live with my mother. You might be wondering how I ended up in this situation. Let's rewind a few years. Tony and I decided to build a house together. However, at that time, Tony had just changed jobs, and our savings were slim. His previous job had been at a major corporation, but he faced insidious harassment from his boss, which took a toll on his mental health. After struggling with sleepless nights, he eventually found himself unable to continue working. Tony sought help from a psychiatrist and took a leave of absence for about 3 months. Despite his efforts, he couldn't bounce back, leading to his resignation. With only my salary to rely on, we managed to get by, but it was a challenging time. After 2 months of being unemployed, Tony started to regain his energy. He began taking care of himself again, and his psychiatrist was pleased with his progress. Seeing him back to his positive self was a relief. He embarked on a vigorous job search, but his resignation due to mental health issues made finding a new job difficult. Eventually, he found a position at a small company, albeit with a lower salary than before. His enthusiasm for the job was infectious, and I couldn't help but feel happy seeing him excited about his work again. It wasn't easy, but at least he was doing what he loved. We had once dreamed of starting a family, but with the uncertainty of our finances, we reluctantly put that plan on hold. Besides, I also cherished my job, and quitting wasn't an option. Just when we thought things were stabilizing, a new challenge emerged. My mother, Karen, was paralyzed in a traffic accident and had to rely on a wheelchair. With my father gone since my middle school years, she had been living alone in our old family home, which was far from wheelchair-friendly. Tony surprised us all by suggesting that we live together to support my mother. It was unexpected but characteristic of his kindness. Despite the uncertainty surrounding his new job, we decided to take the leap and apply for a mortgage. Securing the loan wasn't easy, given the short duration of Tony's current employment, but we refused to give up. With determination and resilience as our driving forces, we approached multiple mortgage companies until we finally found one willing to work with us. With the loan approved, we were ecstatic to finally buy our own home, where we could support my mother and build a new chapter of our lives together. I had always envisioned living in a home permeated with the comforting scent of wood, adorned with thick exposed beams on the ceiling, and boasting customized storage spaces tailored specifically for us. A kitchen adapted to my shorter stature and spacious flooring crafted from cypress completed the picture. Naturally, it had to be a barrier-free single-story house, ideal for easy wheelchair living. The anticipation of its completion filled us with excitement, prompting daily visits to the construction site. Finally, our meticulously designed dream home stood before us. Its ample yard provided a perfect spot for my mother, who had become hesitant to venture outdoors, to bask in the sunlight. Yet, amid our joy, there lingered a sense of dissatisfaction. The land upon which our dream home sat was a gift from Tony's beloved grandfather. Though not affluent, his grandfather held a special fondness for Tony. However, his sudden cancer diagnosis prompted him to distribute his assets, with Tony receiving the largest plot of land as per his grandfather's wishes. It felt like winning the lottery, but there was a significant caveat. The plot was merely a 5-minute stroll from Tony's family home. When we informed them of my mother's plan to move in with us, Tony's sister scoffed, deriding the idea as shameless and attributing trouble to my presence as a supposed outsider. Tony's mother echoed this sentiment, insinuating that caring for the elderly was burdensome and casting aspersions on me as if I were some sort of curse. In the face of their hurtful remarks, Tony staunchly defended my mother and me, asserting that his grandfather's gift should be cause for celebration, not contention. Despite his efforts, it became apparent that Tony's mother and sister harbored a level of malice that bordered on world-class. It's truly remarkable that someone as kind-hearted as Tony could emerge from such a family dynamic. To me, he's akin to a beautiful lotus flower, flourishing amidst the murky waters. Tony often remarked about his family, citing them as prime examples of what he didn't want to emulate at home. I suspect Tony's grandfather bestowed upon us this land with the hope that we would care for his mother in her later years. Despite having other properties, he allocated Tony's sister a parking lot situated a mere 10 minutes walk from their family residence. While smaller in size compared to our portion, it already had a lucrative parking contract, offering substantial monthly income. Personally, I might have preferred this arrangement, but receiving any gift is indeed something to be grateful for. Thanks to my grandfather-in-law's generosity, we were able to construct our home without bearing the burden of land costs, significantly easing the financial strain. However, once construction was complete, we extended invitations to my mother-in-law and sister-in-law's family. During the building process, we learned that they had made unsanctioned visits to the site on multiple occasions. Their disregard for our privacy was unsettling. On the day of their visit, they arrived an hour and a half later than agreed upon, offering no apology. Their sense of entitlement was palpable as they casually asserted their ownership over the house, likening it to their grandfather's property. Despite the muddy conditions outside, my sister-in-law and her husband traipsed through our pristine home without so much as a second thought, ignoring the slippers we had provided. When I suggested offering slippers for their comfort, my sister-in-law simply chuckled, dismissing the idea as unnecessary. "It's such a hassle," she remarked casually. "You can just wipe the floor." From the outset, the atmosphere was tense, and predictably, they arrived empty-handed. After touring the rooms, they eventually reached my mother's quarters, which boasted ample space and abundant sunlight. At my mother's request, we had designed it akin to a duplex, complete with its own kitchen, a room truly resembling a second living area. Upon seeing it, my mother-in-law declared, "I'm fine with this room. I want to live here." It was a presumptuous statement, to say the least. Then came the final straw. My mother-in-law remarked to my mother, "You were fortunate to have that accident, weren't you? Thanks to being paraplegic, you've moved from that old shack to such a nice house. Isn't it a turn of fortune?" My mother remained silent, her expression betraying her inner sadness. Internally seething, I was on the brink of erupting in anger, but before I could speak, Tony intervened. In a firm tone, he confronted them, questioning their humanity and expressing his disgust at their callous remarks. He demanded an apology, unwilling to tolerate their insensitivity. Instead of remorse, they responded with defensiveness. My sister-in-law accused Tony of being high and mighty, while my mother-in-law attributed Tony's supposed misfortunes to our marriage. But Tony refused to back down, vehemently defending my mother and our family. Frustrated by Tony's unwavering stance, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law eventually left, shooting me a contemptuous glance. My mother, witnessing the confrontation, offered Tony a heartfelt apology, acknowledging the pain their words had caused. In the aftermath, amidst the lingering tension, my mother extended her own apology to Tony. "I'm sorry," she said, a glimmer of remorse evident in her eyes. "I must have upset your mother and sister. I'm sorry I dampened the mood on the day of the housewarming party." Tony, however, insisted that the blame rested on him. "It's embarrassing," he said. "They really lack decency. But I'm truly sorry. I'm happy to be living with you. Please understand that." As my mother began to tear up, I reassured her. Our new home was close to Tony's parents' house, surrounded by neighbors who had known Tony since childhood. Their kindness towards us eased the transition into our new life. 4 months had passed since that incident, and we were starting to settle into our new routine. My mother's smiles were becoming more frequent. Then one day, I received a call from home while I was at work. Such calls were rare, and a sense of foreboding gripped me. My fears were realized when my mother, unable to conceal her distress, informed me that Tony had collapsed at work. Panic surged through me as I quickly made arrangements to leave for the hospital. During the journey, I tried to remain calm, conjuring up positive scenarios in my mind. But upon reaching the hospital, the sight that greeted me shattered all semblance of composure. My husband, who had left for work that morning in high spirits, was now lying unconscious, hooked up to countless tubes. I was overwhelmed, lost in a sea of disbelief and fear. The doctor's grim prognosis only intensified the sense of despair. "He's in a very dangerous condition," they said. "Even if he survives, we don't know if he will regain consciousness." I felt like I was in a movie, unable even to cry. I prayed fervently, but my prayers went unanswered. My husband Tony passed away just like that. In my state of shock, my mother and sister-in-law showed up as expected. Upon hearing of Tony's passing, my sister-in-law accused me aggressively. "Did you poison him or something? Were you after his life insurance money?" My mother-in-law joined in, cornering me with her harsh words. "Bad things always happen when you're around. Just like your mother, you really are a jinx." I was too devastated to respond. At that moment, My mother arrived in a caregiver's taxi, tears streaming down her face at the loss of Tony. Seeing her cry finally broke through my shock, and I began to sob as well. As we cried together, my mother-in-law sneered, "Oh, stop it. Can't you quit the fake crying? My son changed after meeting you. Now that he's gone, I don't want to see your faces ever again. Don't appear before us again." With that, she left the hospital. A funeral director soon arrived to help us arrange the funeral. Tony's cause of death was a subarachnoid hemorrhage. It was unimaginable. He had been perfectly fine that morning. When I informed my mother-in-law about the funeral schedule, she responded coldly, "He's always sided with you too, so I won't attend the funeral." My daughter won't come either. True to her word, neither she nor my sister-in-law and her husband attended the viewing. Despite their absence, many of Tony's colleagues and friends came to pay their respects. Their presence was a testament to the love and respect Tony had earned. The turnout at the funeral was similarly large, and I could see that Tony was deeply missed. Surrounded by people who genuinely mourned my husband, I felt a sense of solace amidst my grief. Spending the day with those who sincerely missed Tony reminded me of the positive impact he had on so many lives. After Tony's death, I received an email from my mother-in-law, but its content was so inappropriate that I chose not to respond. She was asking about the amount of life insurance money and continued to email me when I didn't reply, eventually claiming she had a right to receive it. I couldn't handle this on top of everything else, so I ignored her messages. When my mother and I arrived home, we noticed the light was on inside. "That's strange," my mother Karen said, puzzled. "I thought we turned off all the lights." "Maybe I forgot to turn it off because I was too agitated," I replied, trying to reassure her. It's only natural to be upset given the situation. As I unlocked the door, we could hear the sound of a TV coming from inside, which was definitely odd. My mom and I exchanged worried glances and cautiously entered the house. To our shock, we found my sister-in-law and her husband sitting in the living room, surrounded by unfamiliar furniture and boxes. "What are you doing here?" I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Without missing a beat, my sister-in-law retorted, "Why did you just barge in here?" "Well, it's your first time, so I'll let you off the hook. We're taking this house. We sold your stuff, so leave." My mother and I were utterly stunned, having no idea what was happening. "Where did our furniture and belongings go?" I asked. She nonchalantly replied, "We had a resale company come today and they took everything. You had some pretty good furniture. We got a good price for it. We bought this new furniture with that money. Who wants furniture that a dead person used? It's bad luck, isn't it? I'm the type to care about such things. Your stuff is packed in these boxes. I don't know if you're minimalist or just poor, but it was a relief that you had so few things." The furniture was carefully chosen by my husband, and I couldn't forgive them for this. My mom was also furious, her face turning beet red, but she was too shocked to respond. I immediately called the resale company. After explaining the situation, they agreed to treat the items as stolen and promised to return them. Honestly, with my husband gone, I want nothing to do with his family, but I do feel a strong desire to stay in the house filled with memories of him. As I grappled with these conflicting emotions, my mother leaned in and whispered to me, "What do you think Tony would say if he were here now?" "Maybe he'd say we should leave." "I'm sure that's true. Tony always used to say, it's worth spending time with people who understand you. But there are also people who just won't get it, no matter how much you explain. It's a waste of time dealing with those low-level aliens." He was, in fact, talking about his mother and sister. I can see it clearly now. If we continue to live here, his family and relatives will keep interfering. So, impulsively, I signed a lease on an accessible apartment. My mother was taken aback by my decisiveness. I asked the resale company to keep the furniture for a few days, and 3 days later, we moved it to the new apartment. In exchange for moving out, I made my mother-in-law and sister-in-law promise to cut ties with us. And so, a new life began with just my mother and me in the apartment. Tony had so many life insurance policies, it was almost obsessive. He often joked, always with a smile, "When I die, you guys will be rich." True to his word, my husband left my mother and me enough money to be comfortable for the rest of our lives. Tony was unable to secure a mortgage when we bought the house, so as an employee at a major corporation, I purchased the house under my name. I ensured that even if something happened to Tony first, I wouldn't be stuck paying a mortgage for a house I wouldn't live in. According to the original contract, The house would be auctioned off if the mortgage wasn't paid for 3 months. In the hustle and bustle of life, 3 months passed in a flash. Then, I received a barrage of calls from my sister-in-law, Jessica, filled with astounding fury. My call history was flooded with calls from Jessica and my mother-in-law, Linda. What the heck? This is seriously scary, I thought. It felt like something out of a horror movie. Since they were being incredibly persistent, I picked up the phone and found out they were furious that the house was being sold. Apparently, when they returned home, they were unable to get in and found a seizure notice. Jessica and her husband had moved out of the apartment they had been living in since Tony passed away, and Jessica had also quit her job. I suggested they move back into their parents' house as they were panicking about suddenly being homeless. To my surprise, Linda had become so involved in gambling that she couldn't keep up and had sold her own house. It seems they had been living together for the past 2 months. From what I hear, they even sold their primary source of income, a parking lot in front of the train station, a long time ago. Now, Linda and Jessica's family are completely homeless. When Linda said, "I'm sorry for everything, let's get along. Can you lend me some money, please?" I replied, "I think it's best if you stay away since I'm a jinx. We're strangers now that we've severed ties." Linda fell silent, mumbling a weak In my mind, I was laughing, thinking, who's the real bad luck charm here? When I said, "I won't lend you a single cent," Jessica, who had been listening to the conversation, shouted, "You devil. Bring us the money right now." "I am a devil and bad luck, so I'm going to hang up now," I replied and ended the call. In truth, I had involved the lawyer for the past 3 months, pushing for the auction of the house. I thought it was an unusual case, but apparently it's not that uncommon. The house was sold without any major trouble, allowing our family a moment of respite. We plan to find a new home with the money Tony left us. Since it's just my mother and me, we don't need a big house. We prioritize security as 2 women living together. So, I chose a condominium with minimal noise disturbance. I remember something my husband always said when we built our home. People can get energy from the sun, so let's create a place where your mother can enjoy her hobby of reading in the garden without feeling self-conscious. With those words, he had made a spacious courtyard for her. So, I looked for a condo with a large balcony where she could enjoy her coffee and read. It's smaller than our previous home, but the room is spacious enough to house the furniture my husband proudly chose. The piece of land that was gifted to us by Tony's grandfather was expansive, and the house sold for more than expected. With that money, I bought a rather luxurious condominium. The security is top-notch, so my worrywart husband would surely rest easy. I heard rumors about my in-laws' family. Our old neighbors were worried about my sister-in-law's family suddenly moving in. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law's family were left homeless. They even tried to borrow money from neighbors. In the end, they couldn't borrow anything and ended up living in public housing after consulting with the community. But they're stubborn people, so it seems the trouble never ends. From what I've heard, they caused a commotion by having a barbecue on their small balcony. Their thoughtless actions must have shocked the locals. Whether due to a lack of money or just frustration, they seem to have loud arguments every night. People say they're causing such a racket that it sounds like things are being thrown around. My sister-in-law's husband left a long time ago, and now it's just her and Linda living together. It's quite the contrast to my peaceful life with my mother. Although we're both 2-member households, it seems that the neighbors are banding together to try to get this nuisance family evicted. No matter where you go, if you're a nuisance, people won't welcome you. What goes around comes around. I just want to live peacefully and quietly, estranged from my embarrassing family. I believe that Tony is surely watching over us. From now on, I plan to live my life without causing trouble to others and do my best to live not just for myself, but for Tony as well.